Welcome back, nerds. This is the Dungeon Boys.
The Dungeon Boys, back in action.
His name is Jair.
And your name is Nick?
Good job, good job. All right, we're 1 for 1 so far. Oh, man. So we've got a wonky show for you today.
Should be fine. I think it's
going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun today. Before we even start, how you doing, Jair?
I am doing fantastic. I have a jolly cup of tea here. We'll talk about that in a minute.
That we will.
And we'll talk about a couple other things. We have a couple of games we played over the weekend.
Yep.
We got Campy Creatures.
Yeah.
I love creatures.
We got Campy Creatures. We didn't have a chapter in our Scythe campaign this week, so we are going to talk about the Scythe Wind Gambit expansion, primarily the airships, if you're familiar with it at all. And we'll discuss that.
Yeah, and we also have Dungeon Petz.
Dungeon Petz. And that's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we played that game a bit, but now we'll be able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
wrapping it up with Codenames Duet, which will be fascinating when you hear our backgrounds on Codenames. Now, if you paid attention there, you noticed maybe there's a little bit of lacking there. Basically, with our game Summer Camp, we have the prototype and we have not played it yet. Basically, I kind of thought we could just wing it, but the problem is to make the game actually kind of worthwhile, the locations are going to need to be more refined in their details, and that was a harsh lesson, and it's really set me back.
It's been a pretty busy couple of weeks, and
I mean, busy.
It sounds like excuses, but
it's a little bit. It is a little bit of excuse.
But it's been crazy.
It's been crazy. But my goal, and this is my new goal, because I didn't set a goal last time after we accomplished it, is by the next episode, I will be able to say it's ready. It can still be garbage, but it's just not playable right now. It's, okay, so why would I go here and not there? Immediately, I don't want those sorts of questions to come up. So I'm just going to cut right to the chase and say Summer Camp this week was a little bit of a flop. It's okay.
Yeah, it's
just, I don't want to come back and do that again. So that's why we have so many games lined up for you today.
Can be disappointing, James.
Yeah. No, we don't want to disappoint James. James, we love you. We were getting ready for this podcast today, and I wanted to play one more game. So I was like, hey, you want to play Campy Creatures? Great. Cool. And we'll get to it in a bit. But we started playing some David Bowie in the background. That's good stuff. And I asked Jair, hey, have you heard the new Janelle Monáe album, Dirty Computer?
I had not.
Oh, Jair, tell me, what do you think about the queen, the contemporary queen of pop music, Janelle Monáe?
No, I had mentioned this. This doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it happens. When I hear a whole album and it's the first time I'm hearing it, even if it's from a band I like. For example, my favorite band is Mars Volta, and I have heard all of their albums countless times. So the first times I heard them, it was like, okay, let me get used to this. Let me get in the mood of this album. It has happened with other bands, other musicians, that I hear their album for the very first time, and I'm like, this is going to my shelf. I need this, and I need every format of this musical compilation of whatever. But this, so what's the name of the album?
This one's called Dirty Computer, her fourth album.
Oh man, it's just something else. Being an Afro-Latino person from all sorts of places and all sorts of, I don't know. It just feels like such an excellent representation of minorities and the empowerment of women, empowerment of minorities, empowerment of all those people that just want to have fun and be out there, and it just makes me happy. It just makes me so happy.
It's
and I am going to listen the heck out of that.
Oh my goodness.
As the days come. But yeah, how do you feel about
how do I feel about the contemporary queen of pop, Janelle Monáe? That's a great question you ask. Let me tell you about the contemporary queen of pop music, Janelle Monáe. I picked her up in her third album, Electric Lady, and then, of course, listened immediately to Metropolis, I believe is the name of her second album. Her first album's okay. I forget the name of it, but it was all right. It was solid. The second one is kind of smooth. It's quick. It's snappy. The third brought it to me, and it's got Prince on it. It's got Miguel. It's got Medulla Oblongata. It is such an incredible journey because all of her albums, this one supposedly keeps it, but I don't really feel it as much. It's this story about androids in the future being discriminated against, and it's totally an overtone for racism, completely, but it's so well done. I don't mean that in any negative way. It's just that's what it's about. And she plays this character, Cindy Mayweather. And if you listen through Electric Lady, there's little radio skits in between where someone's slinging all of her music, and you get to hear people of this universe talk to each other and stuff. It's very fascinating. Dirty Computer is more of a departure from that, but it's super sexual. It's super bold. It's as political as it is fun.
Spicy.
Oh, it's spicy. Oh. As the term I introduced you to today, it slaps. It slaps.
Can you
we only stopped.
What that means? Because I'm sure
it just means
it's
like you just like slap. I don't slap your side or something. Just like, oh man, you just start going. Anytime you
slap of the knee.
Slap of the knee. You're just you're going and you can't stop. You talked about when you heard a song and you immediately felt it. I don't know if as immediate, but you've had some sort of reaction when you listened to Ghost for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And you were just, oh my gosh, and you start going. Yeah. I would say Slaps, to me, resonates more for like groovy hip-hop feel and that sort of thing when you're bouncing around, not so much when you're headbanging and praising Satan or whatever. But it's definitely more of, they both have that same quality. I don't know. I think we mentioned in the previous episode
about Ghost
and how we're going to
see Ghost.
Yes,
the band Ghost.
Oh my goodness!
You guys don't know? Is this a music review podcast now?
Board games. We are retiring. I have a whole shelf I'm just gonna set on fire and fill with vinyl.
I know you guys don't just play board games, so it's good to talk about other stuff. But yeah, we are in love with Janelle and all of her musical and artistic endeavors. I saw her in Hidden Figures. It's a really good movie.
Yes, she's an actress.
I did not know it was her. I did not really know about her music, about who this person was, but she was killing it in that movie, along all the other stars, I think. But that was really, really cool stuff.
She is so multifaceted. She got big in music, and she just immediately used that. She's a model. I forget which. I think I'm going to get it wrong. I think it's Maybelline, and she's one of their main models they'll put out there. And you'll see her when you walk through Walmart or Target, like, there's a giant Janelle Monáe just staring right back at me. But she's been in movies. Needs. Yes, it's just a giant robot Janelle Monáe for when Godzilla comes. Like, we are ready, and she is just going to sing them to sleep.
She's going to slap him to sleep.
Slap him to sleep. But she also has Wonderland Productions. It's where she produces her album, but she also does films and all sorts of crazy stuff. So, and she's offering opportunities to artists, nothing but love.
She gets a gold star. Dude.
She just, not even our star, just a gold star. We must go get a star out of space and send it to Janelle Monáe.
Yes, let's do that. All right,
but we were playing that music while we were playing
Campy Creatures.
Campy Creatures. Yeah. I'll cover the game here. To start, we do have to throw a disclaimer. Today, Jair just learned it. We played a good many rounds of it, but it's a 2-player experience for us. The Campy Creatures by Keymaster Games is a 2 to 5 player deduction bluffing game. The idea is you are all evil scientists in a good campy monster movie.
Oh, my favorite.
Oh, it's so good. And you will take your monster and send them out into the fields because there's mortals out there, and you need to gather more mortals for more experience.
Humans,
yes.
victims.
And of course, the mortals are points, so you want to gather up the best ones. During your turn, you have a hand of cards ranging from 0 to 8 in power, and each one represents a monster. There's the blob, and the beast, and the kaiju, and the mummy, and the swamp monster, and they're all there, and everybody has the same cards in hand. But during your turn, you're going to take one of your cards and place it face down. And when everybody has, we flip them over. They all have a power, and they all get really screwy with each other. The vampire turns off the power of the other person immediately. Really cool.
Right, yeah.
The invisible man lets you get rid of mortals because there's some that are worth negative points. The hunter's ready for you, so you're going to lose points for having him.
Want those
so
points.
you throw out the invisible man to get rid of your hunter, but the vampire, who's a higher number because the highest number always wins, is going to turn him off. So you still have to take the hunter, and it's take that back and forth of just cards in a 2-player game.
It's just these little, because it's not like a bunch of rules. You have all of these rules in every game you play, but just a combination of, and I guess we played a 2-player game, which made it pretty easy to kind of read into like what we were gonna do to each other. But even then, it was like every time, like, oh, what is he gonna do? What is he gonna throw this one? And that combination of different like rules to each creature just made it so much fun. Other than so what I think about it, it's kind of like a more developed war. You play war. You play war. It's just like if you have a 5 and the other person has a 4, you get the cards.
Yes.
But if you match, that's where things get. If you match the same number,
we go to the Clash-O-Meter.
Yeah.
The Clash-O-Meter is one of the best uses of ties I've seen in a game in a long time. So basically, when you start the game, you take your cards, and we'll talk about how those are designed in a second, but you take your set of cards, you take your Creeple, which is a creepy meeple of your monster, which I love, you put it on the score track, and you take this little bar. It's hard to describe, but basically if you imagine like a jar, there's a drawing of this jar, and you put the little bars in it, and those represent where you stand in the Clash-O-Meter. Yes, it's in the Clash-O-Meter. The higher up you are, the more likely you are to break ties. Whenever you break a tie in your favor, whoever's on top gets the win. You move to the bottom.
Bottom, yeah.
And in 2-player, it's just back and forth.
Right.
And it really changes up the game just mentally, because there's so many times, the first couple of games we played, it didn't switch too much. At the last game we played in rounds, and the last round we were just hitting it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Sometimes since the cards you've already played are faced up, you know what cards your opponent has, so you know what cards they're gonna play.
Right.
And if you have the same card, you know it's gonna go into a tie, and you don't want it to go into a tie if he's over in the Clash-O-Meter, because he will win the tie. So you have to think your move there, and if you know he's gonna win and there's nothing else you can do, you just have to play it. You're like, all right.
And being able to see what everybody has discarded really gives that, okay, so he's played his werewolf, he's played his vampire. I think if I look at the cards here, if I look at these mortals and the ones he's gonna want, I think he wants to play this card. How can I mess with that person? Now we talked about 2-player. In a 2 or 3-player game, you play in rounds. Jair gets the most points, he wins that round, we reset. In a 4 or 5-player game, it's a much wilder game because a lot of your cards are affecting the person to your left or your right, not necessarily just the other person. And those are really exciting because you're as much a nuisance to the person over here as you are to the person to your right, and they both are after you. And you have to figure out, if I'm going to play the vampire, which turns off the card to the person to my left, that's not going to affect Jair at all. And so I have to think about the werewolf. If I want to mess with Jair this turn because he's doing really well, the werewolf goes to the right. I'm going to shoot over there. It gives this fantastic, just wild, it's a little chaotic. Whereas 2 and 3-player, it's very deliberate, and you're able to look around, count cards, because that's what we were doing. We just got we built our own meta. So at the first couple games, a good card would come out with positive points, and then a negative one. And for like the first 3 rounds of the game, no matter what I put down, you would put down the swamp monster who gives me your card. You actually give me the card you get. And so you would take the negative card, and it would just pretty much turn off all the work I put in. It was so frustrating. And then the couple times we tied, you were always on top, and you'd still give me the negative card. It was so frustrating.
I can see how with more people, that just goes out of the table into something completely different, into just chaos. And how you affects the person next to you, that affects the person next to him, and so on and so on. It gets back to you in some sort of way. So I would love to play this with more people, but I love playing it.
Yeah,
two players.
This is one of the great things. Is this is a party game. This feels like a party game. It's you play a card, you all laugh at what you do, you get the mortal you want, and you count it all up. In 4 or 5, it's not rounds. You play in rounds, but you just count up all your points, and they go. Your creeple moves around the track, and it's really neat. But it's either that party game at 4 or 5, or it's a really calculated, goofy, light game for
goofiness.
But it feels the feeling of this game is just so. One thing we've held off talking about, and I'm so impressed by, the art.
Yes.
Now we've Keymaster Games. I met them at Gen Con.
Oh, yeah.
And they caught my eye because they were selling Space Park. And they were selling Space Park and Caper, both of which just came out. And we'll talk about Space Park and Caper somewhere down the road. We need to get a copy of Caper. We'll do it. But Campy Creatures was off my radar. When I get home, Reddit there's like 4 posts just talking about Campy Creatures, which have been out for a while. Caitlin, one of the employees at Etten, she is just gushing. Wait, you like Keymaster games? I love them for Campy Creatures. I was like, what's Campy Creatures? Tell me more, Doc. And she goes into it, and I was really excited for it. It shows up at the shop, and day went by immediately.
That's awesome.
And it lived up to the hype because Keymaster Games does 2 things really well. Let's put the game aside. 1, compact. This game, it comes in a nice tiny box, opens it up, you look at it, it's like, this is everything I need. There's no wasted space. It's absolutely incredible. Space Park does the exact same thing. It's so simple to set up. These are medium light, much more leaning towards light games. They're very approachable, and there's no intimidation by opening a giant box. Here's this tiny box, and people wonder if it's going to be worth their time, but they don't question that too much because the art is incredible.
Yes.
Every game of theirs so far, but
very approachable.
My goodness! You see these, you don't have to like monsters. There's so many like zombie games. I'm just turned off because the zombies. Whatever. Oh look, their flesh is rotting off. These are drawn. I'm gonna get the name wrong, but I believe it's Emmerich. I follow him on Instagram. If you get a listen to this, I'm so sorry I'm messing up your name, but I believe Emmerich. He does the art for them, and he's just phenomenal. The vampire, I think, the vampire and the alien are probably both my favorites, with like the swamp monster next up. You don't have to be a monster lover just to appreciate how gorgeous all the cards are.
Because they got their own little, it's his style. It's very, it does have that callback to the retro campy, like 50s,
1950s, 60s, drive-in feeling.
All the monsters, like Universal monsters, I guess. There's some of them there, but all of the other stuff.
They feel unified but unique.
I think the word's like funky.
Yeah.
I would see these in like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. It's right in between, and it's just so well executed. Also, remember how I said everybody gets their own hand of cards? Mm-hmm. You get, of course, in most games you have different colors. In Sorry, you're all different colors. Well, every color of character is based off one of the monsters. I almost always choose the Blob because he's this adorable pink creeple. Again, I just love that name. But then your hand of cards, the backs of them are all customized.
Yeah.
They didn't need to do that.
Yeah, it's just a little nice
did that
touch
for us.
Yeah.
They did it. And you had the green one, which is just this big old eye. Most of them are just a single eye or 2 or so, and it's just they're beautiful on the back as they are in the front, and it's so absolutely.
Yes. I love it.
So what are the issues with it? I would say the game in a 2 or 3. I'd say more with 2. It can get a little predictable. Yep. What's going to come up. And so there's a variable in the game where we'll discuss that in a little bit, but that can add some freshness to it.
We
We forced it, but the idea is you can switch some cards out with other monsters. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit. But with doing that, I think if we were to play again, where we could choose if we did, you don't reveal which cards you're using. And that way it could add a lot of refreshment for the first couple. And then you're basically, by the end of the game, you will have figured each other out.
Right.
What your hands are, what you do, and when you want to play them. But with the base game, 2 players, this is not a game you're not going to play a lot. Like, we are not going to sit down and play 8 games of this. Yeah. We're not going to play it every time. Like, we can bust out 7 Wonders Duel or Santorini over and over and over. Right. I feel if we kept playing this game, we would figure each other out and have our own game.
So this is a game that you play with new... I think, like, the newer... Like, if people haven't played this game before, it's a good experience so they can get into it. And maybe get them into playing the 2-player game, the 4 or 5-player game that just expands it a little bit. So what I think, and it's really
shortly build on what you were saying, you're talking about the approachability of it.
Yeah.
When I played with 5 players, I was teaching 4 other people.
Right.
I think I won, but no, I either did or some girl. There was a little girl that was doing really well too. But everyone picked up on the game immediately, and to watch that many people do it that well,
that's awesome.
Incredible. Super mentionable.
What I think is interesting is that we haven't played with 2 people, a 2-player game. You're playing with rounds. So instead of accumulating points all the way until the end, you're playing rounds. And we played 3 out of 5, right?
Yes. So when you in the 4 or 5, you play 3 rounds of the game, but you accumulate your score.
Yeah, but I think even like if you're like, oh, let's just play 1 round of Campy Creatures.
Yeah.
And you played the 1 round, and that's it's fine. Or you play the 3 rounds and 2 out of 3, and I don't know if the rules it sets it up like just 5 and that's the game.
You play
but
5.
If you just play 1 round, that's just fantastic enough. If you have just like 10 minutes,
I would not see me wanting to whip out for 1 round.
Right.
But I would see like, hey, you want to play? Easily. So for me, this is not even for a 2-player. This is what's called a filler game.
Yeah, exactly.
You get your big game out. You're like, hey, everybody, come on over. We're playing Scythe because that's literally all the Dungeon Boys do these days. We love it, and we're having a ball, but we're so excited to move on.
Yep.
But in between, before and after, we're playing little small games here and there. I was asked on Twitter, can filler games like be looked at negatively? Are filler games, is that term negative because it makes it sound less substantial? Substantially, I mean, Campy Creatures is not Scythe. You're not going to, exactly. Everybody come on over, we're going to play 4 hours of Campy Creatures. But
no, I would not.
No, it's not what it's intended for.
Exactly.
But if I'm setting up, Last Will, and then I'm going to play Scythe, we're going to want to decompress our brains a bit. We are going to want something light and approachable, and Campy Creatures is absolutely one of those. 2-player, I would not necessarily say, hey, Jair, we're going to play a whole bunch of games, but we're mostly going to play Campy Creatures. I would say, hey, we're going to play 7 Wonders Duel, play Santorini, and you bet we're going to squeeze Campy Creatures right in between. It is a glue of a game night, easily.
That's the right word. Yeah, it's gluey.
Yeah, it's going to fill in those cracks that a good game night. Every good game night should have fillers, and Campy Creatures is absolutely positively one of them.
It holds the game night like the blob holds his victims in his glutinous body.
I'm letting you finish that. I don't know where you're going with this. I think we have. So who's the game for? I really feel the only people I'd say it really isn't are the highly technical. It's very silly, and even then you could still get a kick out of counting cards if you're expecting
number wise. Just like you said, counting cards. And deducing what the other person might do.
Well, that was great with us, and because with 5 players, there was really very little reason to bluff, and people weren't being super social when we played. We were having all fun, but we weren't really talking things out. With us, there was actually a couple of moments where I looked at you, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to play this card," and you thought, "Oh, I know what he's going to do. I'm going to counter that," and I bluffed it. And I think that went back and forth a couple times. And there was actually, so it says deduction and bluffing. I would say it's much more deduction. And we're going to talk about games in the future, like deception and resistance. Don't Mess with Cthulhu, these big party games that are all about figuring out who a bad guy is. Those are very much as much deduction as they are bluffing. This is much more the deduction department, not so much the bluffing. But without there being a bad guy, we have someone at game nights. Her name's Carol. And she's not as big of a fan of games that are full of elimination, which is fair, but also ones where she has to lie and be a bad guy. Or someone has to be a bad guy, because she can't fake that well, and she doesn't enjoy that. This game offers that same experience of deducting. What are you going to do?
Without
what are you thinking?
Guy.
No, and that's absolutely great. I don't know if you are a gamer at all. I really don't see why you wouldn't enjoy Campy Creatures. Yeah. I mean,
very approachable. If someone hasn't played games before, this is, easy as cards, dude.
Yep.
Easy as cards.
And for that, giving it my gold star.
I am giving it my gold star as well.
Oh,
so
I got to keep track, but I think this is our 4th or 5th.
Gotta keep track of this, but yeah.
Let's see. Did we ever figure out what the name is? It is the Dungeon Boyz Double Star Boogaloo. And that is... Now, why did I choose this game to show you? I tell you because Keymaster, as of a couple days ago, started their Kickstarter for the 2nd edition of Campy Creatures.
Oh.
Yes.
Nice.
Very excited. Very likely I'm going to back that. I don't see why I wouldn't. And what all comes in this, you ask, Jair? Great question. Let me tell you. There's 2 things they're selling. First off, you can get the 2nd edition of Campy Creatures. It's going to be a bigger box. I think they're going to make the scoring area a little bigger. That's component-wise, that's maybe my only issue. If there's a tie, you're totally smushing into each other.
But compact enough that if you want to bring it around. But
it's also going to make room for the first expansion. So if you remember, I talked about how we all have the same cards. If you want to mix that up, the game offers a card called the Demigorgon, and it's a power level of 2. What you do is look in your hand of cards, you find the Invisible Man who also has a hand of 2, or a power of 2, and you can choose whether or not to swap them out. You can't have multiple of the same number in your hand, but you can switch those out. And basically, that offered enough flavor when we played. It changed up the whole game completely when we both switched out our Invisible Men for Demigorgons. And now, if we were to play again, we'd be like, okay, secretly you choose if you want it or not. Here we go. And that would change up the game completely, and we have to build around that. Expansion 1, I think, is just going to give us guys for every single number. There's the monster, there's tarantula, there were some other ones, but it's just all the little holes that they missed. They're filling up with Expansion 1, and I think basically if you're going to play the basic game, you're going to teach the game, you're just going to whip out the regular cards, have a great game, it's fine. But once you've played a lot, like Jair and I will be, then you can be like, okay, I have 20 cards to choose from. Let's mix this up. And I think that's going to breathe life, which is exactly what an expansion should do. I think it's going to create a whole new game where you have to figure out what's his game plan with all these cards. There's some other little mechanics, but really those 2 big things. It's currently live on Kickstarter when this publication came out. If this sounds interesting to you, go check it out. Go get entranced by the art. And like Jafar's staff, you will be just tempted to give it all your gold and your daughter for marriage. But yeah, that's Campy Creatures. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so wait. Let me do my evil laugh. My
You're sticking to that.
Now, let's talk about Scythe. Because we have some interesting things going on with Scythe. Because we did not play the campaign as we mentioned earlier.
We were planning on it.
But
a couple people got sick.
Yeah, a couple people had flu shots. And I don't know, maybe they got shot with the flu.
Originally, we had talked about if someone was sick or couldn't make it, or if there was one person, we could continue. But Evan brought up a good point that we're so close to end game,
it is
and a lot of us are vying for first place, that missing out is kind of not an option at this point, as it could possibly, we don't know how everything is going to end in the last game, but just that possibility of it dooming people, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, we unfortunately had to call it quits on the Fenris for this week.
The campaign is going to be suspended. But we did play some Scythe.
We did play some Scythe. We had it open. We figure why not? And so with Scythe, we didn't play straight up Scythe.
It's true.
Because there are 3 expansions to the game. There's Invaders from Afar, which offers 2 new armies, which we play with pretty often. Their colors are already on the board. It was kind of a day one DLC if you're familiar with your video games. This one made sense because the game is pretty expensive. And to add those immediately in would be super expensive. And they're very advanced armies, as we will talk about today later. The second expansion is the Wind Gambit, which introduces 2 mechanics, airships, which are these giant, massive, uncomfortably huge miniatures of ships that float around on the board and just cause chaos everywhere they go. And then it also has an endgame module where you draw a card and it has a different... the one I showed you is called the Doomsday Clock.
Right.
The game ends in 20 turns. 20 Done. Turns. You count up your things, it's over.
I don't like that.
It's fascinating, and I think if we were to have to play another game of not Fenris Scythe, I would just say, hey, let's try the Doomsday Counter. Let's see how this makes everything work. That being said, then the third is the Rise of Fenris, which is the campaign we've been talking about. I've owned all 3 for quite a while. I've got the Legendary Box. I've got the broken token inserts. I've got so many upgraded mechanic, blah, 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 blah. But I've never actually used the Wind Gambit. So we figured, why not whip that out? And it was quite an experience.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was playing some army. You were playing as...
Polonia.
Polonia, yes. The white team that Adrian's been playing in Fenris. It was a great time to mix things up. We had... I'm horrible with names. There's a couple names missing from this. But we had the Crimea being run by...
A person who had never played Scythe before.
Are you sure?
He had seen us play Scythe.
That's right. He had walked by us.
Yeah. I think he sat down for one of the campaign games.
You would not have known
let's
you would not just... He played well.
So
Evan, our Nordic player... ran the Tokugawa, which is one of the Japanese team, one of the Invaders from Afar, one of the advanced teams, and then another character whose name I'm great with names, killing it. Next time we play with people, he played the Ruskies.
Oh, that was Brian.
Brian,
I don't remember who played my peeps.
I'll refer to him as Crimea from now on.
We'll shout you out.
But yeah, he were
pretty cool.
He was so cool. And then Brian played the Rustiates. And was that it? Yeah.
Oh, and that was Panda.
Panda, that's right. Panda joined us playing the Nordic team. He joined last second. That's why my memory's a little fuzzy. And he had never played. And Panda picked it up really fast.
Everyone played a good game.
What makes Scythe so good is that it is a thick game, but it's super approachable.
It is.
Somehow, it makes no sense to me. I flung all those rules at Panda really quick because it was my second time explaining. I was a little frustrated. Not at him, just having to do it again. And I'm going through it really fast. And he looks like, okay, yeah, sure, let's go. And I think he only had 1 or 2 times he wasn't sure about things. And that was incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mentioned to Evan that I thought Dungeon Petz was a little more complex in teaching, and he gave me this look like, I don't think so. I still disagree with him. With how fast... Because Dungeon Petz has so much to it, and it's thick. And we'll get to that. But Scythe is scary, and then you start just, okay, you do this, and this, and this. Mm-hmm. And it turned out really fantastic.
I think if you explain those 4 combination of
you get 4 different moves to choose.
Yeah. Once you explain those 4, people know what to do.
The best thing is you put it there. You choose one of your moves, and the next turn you can't choose the same one. So you went from 4 choices to 3, and then from the rest of the game, aside from factory cards, if you're familiar with the game, you always get 3 options. So you're just like, okay, of my 3 options, what makes the most sense?
Yeah,
great.
So that made this game of Scythe. It took a while, but...
It took a while because we were all getting really, so one thing, Fenris challenges you to play Scythe by Scythe's terms. It's going to throw some curveballs at you and do some wacky things. This is just Scythe. Just Scythe. The Wind Gambit. So we didn't play with the endgame module, but we played with the airships. The airships start at your home base, and they can carry a few things here and there. The rules on that are a little weird. I don't know if we played 100% correctly. But they also have 2 abilities. And what makes that game... probably the best thing about the Wind Gambit is you shuffle up the red card and the green card, and you draw one of each for it. And the red card gives you like an aggressive ability, one that usually helps. Yeah, and then a green one gives your airship kind of a helpful building one, and basically you shuffle those up, and that variety dictates what the airships do for this game. So they play totally different every time. I think we all were trying to figure out how to best utilize our ships, but
I don't think there was a lot of usage of those. Maybe it was used like once or twice.
You used yours to teleport your guys, because one of the things is they're not held back by anything. They can move around anywhere. Yeah. They can move into enemy territory. Yep. Absolutely fine. And they don't fight each other. I think there's one card that allows them to, and we definitely didn't have that.
Nope.
But I would say we all teleported stuff around. But as far as those abilities, only one person used the battle ability, which was amusing.
Yep.
But outside of that, not so much anything else. They're interesting. I would, and it's very good as an expansion, because in Fenris there are certain chapters that say if you want to play with the Wind Gambit, you may.
Yeah, exactly.
And we chose from the get-go, we're not going to, because it still recommends you should only do this if you've used it before, and we never had.
Right.
And Wind Gambit, we'll talk about the game we had, because that was fun. But Wind Gambit on its own, scratch that. Let's talk about the game. So how did everybody do? It was
a very surprising game. It was very surprising.
Very much so.
I think nothing went as we thought it was gonna go.
Nope.
Because you just came on knocking with a character with that.
Yeah, I played with a redacted name army. Don't worry about that. And their ability, when I understood how to use it, I came out the doors, hello everyone, my name is Nick, and I have a point to make.
Yep.
And it was interesting. And stretching my legs in a team not Rus Viet was super interesting.
Yeah, you weren't Russia this time around. And I think that also just changing because it was just Evan, you, and I that were playing from the campaign.
True.
The rest of the people were people that had never played before.
Yeah.
That made it really interesting.
And I want to talk about their experiences, but one thing that was interesting was not only did we have to play Scythe again, regular Scythe with Wind Gambit, but we had to play new armies. Well, we chose to, because we had a chance after 5 games of playing the same people over and over. We had a chance to be someone new and different. And that's why I went with my guys. That's why Evan went with the Tokugawa, or we all randomized it. But he had the Japanese, and you had Polania, which you sat right next to for 5 games, and you're like, okay, let's see how you play. And Adrian's won a couple times with him. And out of the 3 of us, I would say you did the best as far as playing the game and figuring it out, because
I'm really proud of how I played.
you played super well. You were battling, you were farming, and you used your airship really well to.
So one of the
countries.
One of my abilities was to get up on lakes and just from one lake go to another lake and just jump around. Which is, if you know Crimea, how we've been talking about it, I love jumping around.
You love the teleportation in a very sluggish game.
Yes. And that helped me jump around and get, all over and get a bunch of encounter cards.
Yes.
Got a bunch of encounters that led me to, get a bunch of, extra things to the game. But one of the biggest moves that I am so proud of, and
was it attacking me?
Because
you did that.
I don't think I attacked you.
You did attack me.
I think I made a statement. But I could have gone a couple of different ways, but that same lake movement helped me be able to jump.
Your options were so available.
Yeah.
And the few areas of the map that were open, the place got crowded really fast. That's 6 players. And there's one empty army space, and you went over there and just basically settled.
I settled into another
it was incredible how unanswered you were on that.
Yeah.
And it was like in Civilization when everybody's just trying to span out, and you were like, oh, let me just sneak over here and do it. And it was
sneaky.
It was great.
And I just wanted some more resources and get up a startup in there for combat, because I don't think I
you still made the statement. That's okay. You chose your things.
But yeah, I mean, you were one of the characters that were more like powerful in terms of combat, which in turn, just combating you was a gamble. Mm-hmm. Not even a gamble. I knew I was going to get something negative out of it.
Yep.
But I was also going to get good things out of it, which led me to get to higher pointage.
Yeah, higher pointage. No, you did it very well.
Yeah. But everyone else, and I mean everyone else,
Evan and myself, we were disappointing.
I was going to talk about those who didn't disappoint.
Well, no. I want to talk about the veterans first.
Okay.
I want to talk about the rookies. Because, we had 3 people who hadn't played before, and then the 3 campaign guys. Mine was disappointing. Mine was kind of sad, because not only was I handling something new and untouched, but basically when you start the game, you have 2 objective cards, and they're a little screwy, but they're ways to get stars on the board. I saw a way to do mine, but it meant turning off my plans, and I let that distract me, and that slowed me down. And once I realized it just demoralized me. We talked way back about how I hurt a Tokugawa player really hard, and he never came back. It's not that I didn't came back. I was never able to fully become the monster of a player I wanted to be because I allowed myself to get distracted. Scythe is as much decided by good choices as it is your mistakes.
Yep.
I've
been there.
How many times? One more turn. I'll end the game in the next turn. Everybody else better hurt. Wait, what? No! And the game ends early. Someone else planned. They were hoping you wouldn't see them. And we pointed out, and it happens, and you sit there, no, all my plans. In the last game, you were ready to spread across the field and get a whole bunch of points off territory, and it didn't happen. And it's not so much that I let the game go like in the last one we were talking about how Evan beat me out in a tiebreaker. That one was a last-second dumb decision I made. This one, I made several mistakes, and I was playing with really intelligent people who capitalized on my mistakes, and I have no one to blame but myself on that. I hold my head up high, but sad. And the only thing that's unfortunately sadder was Evan. He had a new team, the Tokugawa, and I'm convinced they're a really good team. But as far as we've all played them, I'm the only one that's been able to capitalize on them.
I would like to play them.
You would have a blast with them. They'd have to play hyper aggressively, and I think I could be wrong, and he'll probably tell me I'm wrong. My ability can basically offer bad choices for people.
You're right.
Well, it can make your great idea slightly less amazing. And I think he was intimidated by that at first. I could be wrong about that, and it slowed him down. He basically sat in his corner, and the Tokugawa is a team that wants to get out there.
Yep.
The character, when they move into a spot, they lay traps. They're bad things that when other people join to those spots, they flip over, and you lose money, you lose popularity, power, cards, whatever. And we want to spread those. The entire game, he got one trap out, and I just felt terrible for him. But at the same time, I think he tried. A lot of us have all said the same thing when we've lost. We tried to play a different game of Scythe than what we're used to, and we adjusted ourselves in a way that, it wasn't right this time. I made the mistake of focusing only on my objective when the person who won the game didn't even touch their objective. They just kept going. God. And I don't know if I could have beaten them, but I could have kept up with them had I gone with my initial idea. So Evan, great guy, and I think he'd agree. That was probably his weakest showing so far. But, it's not going to matter. Next week, he's going to come in guns a-blazing.
Yes,
how about the new guys?
Oh, my God. So the new guys just...
Should we start with Panda in the Nordic?
Panda did all right.
Yeah, for a first time, he looked at himself Euro style like you did, and he's like, I did okay.
Yeah.
And he could have done better. He didn't recruit a single mech until the end.
Well, I was ready to go at him because I was jumping around. I was looking around to him too.
When you get too sedentary, people will eyeball you and be ready to take advantage of your you're sitting there. But his character moved into like the edge of his little country and then stayed there the entire time. And I'm just like, get your river walk, be able to move, get out there, do things. Yes. And I think really, because Panda does not play an aggressive game. And
he did say that too.
And he said that many times. I just don't play aggressive. And he said at the end, I learned I'm going to need to play aggressive. Mm-hmm. And I think if Panda had another shot to play, he would perform very well.
Now, Brian did fantastic. Brian...
He did my Rusviets proud.
Yes, wow. So, here's the thing. So, let's talk about... And here's the problem. We forgot his name. But he was playing Crimea. He was playing Crimea, and he just sneaked around. Nobody noticed. I'm pretty sure he cheated, dude.
Yeah. As the primary Crimea player.
He won the game.
Crimea stomped.
And I remember when I set him up for the game, you get your player mat, and he got the agricultural player mat, which is a mat I think in the campaign, that's the mat I did the best with. Mm-hmm. And I told him, like, I gave him hints. I told him, like, you should enlist a bunch because it gets you get a bunch of food, you can enlist. So regretful giving him that because he was just killing it, and now he ended the game, and I think he ended the game way earlier than everyone was thinking it was going to end.
And I thought there were a couple turns, and
I remember I said, I think the game is going to end in the next 3 rounds.
Yep.
I was wrong. It was gonna end in the next one.
I've gotten good at that. Right. I was the one that called it because the same with Adrian. A couple games back, I was like, he's gonna end the game, and he looks up like, no, you surprised us last time. Don't do this to me. And I looked over and I was like, because someone I think battled him, and he won getting his star.
The Crimea guy.
Yeah, and he went from 2 stars to 1.
Right.
And he's been running a beautiful engine the entire time. And we looked up. I was like, when anybody ever has 1 star, I immediately analyze theirs.
Yep.
And from the other side of the field, I was like, hey, wow. And I noticed he had a lot of oil. What spot are you on? Oh, you're going to upgrade next turn. Okay, guys, game ends.
Yep.
Game ends. Get your stuff done.
Yep.
Only because I feel if I tell people that, first of all, I look like a good guy. It's really hard to look like a good guy when you're the guy who owns the biggest game box in the store. 2, I hope people will villainize that person when they're so clearly ahead, and maybe they can mess with them. But he had built such a solid engine, such a solid army. No one could mess with him. And instead they messed with me. Understandably so.
Now, so that led us to be working on what do we want to do next? What do we want? And I was pretty high up on the popularity. So if I've been able to manage to get my popularity 2 points up, I would have gotten to the 3rd tier.
Yep.
That would get me...
There's 3 tiers of popularity.
Maximum pointage. But I did what I could do best. I moved my pieces around so I could get some movements around. You wanted to fight me to steal my resources, but you had a better chance to move around.
I tried to spread on the map, and it just did not.
I'm not sure what Panda did. He
moved around.
But
Brian, I made mistakes. I moved to the fortress, or moved to the factory because it's worth a lot of points at the end of the game. His ability, if you've heard before, talking about the Rusviets, he jumped from his village right into the factory. Yep. And just rained hell down on me and hurt me a lot.
He attacked you, and he got an extra...
He got a star.
He had 2 stars.
Yep.
Everyone else had... I had 3, everyone else had 4.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 stars, and we were trying to tell him, you gotta get them out there, dude. He battled you, got an extra one, and in that same battle, I'm not sure...
He took over the factory.
Oh, no, but he got an extra star from that. He got 4 stars out. I don't remember what the 4th one was, but he got that out. Just fascinating, end game. He had a perfect end game, and that got him 2nd place, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I think he took 2nd. It was really close between him and you.
And me, because he had 57. I had all the negative stuff that
you had all these penalties.
That got me 54, and he got 57, so that was pretty close.
Evan by 1
Oh.
I feel good. I feel
Ooh.
great.
Yeah,
As after our nasty tie.
Oh.
But here's what I want to. Here's why I said let's talk about this game. I like Wind Gambit. And I want to play with it more.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch how it moves across the board. It's fun just to, like, we've had so many people walk by and observe our game and say, that's pretty. With those on the field, everyone was like, whoa, look at this. And that grabs attention. That's nice. It's not essential for a game, but it's a nice compliment. But you notice the entire time we talked about the game, we didn't bring them up once.
We didn't.
We didn't mention them once. And so, for me, if you were to buy expansions for Scythe, I would argue between Fenris and Invaders from Afar. You kind of decide which way you want to go. I would probably say Fenris first. Fenris, because by the time you've milked Fenris for all it's worth, then you'll want to play his new armies. And then lastly, the Wind Gambit. And that's just when you just really milked so much out of Scythe and you need more. Here you go. Because we were talking about using some modules that we already got from Scythe, Fenris, and I just said no only because we had not used the Wind Gambit and we had just played these in the last 4 games.
Keep it a little level.
But it's not bad. It's just by comparison subpar.
Right. That's what gets it, you know. That's why I wouldn't say because I don't want to say I don't love it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's good, and I know that
it's not our last time playing with the Wind Gambit.
And I know since it has so many variables, once you play the cards, the end game
modules, I want to play with those.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
So that gives it a little edge, which I would love to keep playing it.
But here's
at
the
least
sad
this
thing.
time,
I'm almost more excited for the end game ones than I am putting for the airships. And as for as beautiful, as much effort as they put into them, that's just a little unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's just okay.
It's a nice little addition to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all sorts in there, and you know it's good. But I do think it takes a deep third to Invaders from Afar because the Tokugawa's fun for all their traps. The Albion's really fun for all the fighting they do.
Yep.
And their Warthog. I love the Warthog. And the Fenris. We put 5 episodes of this, or 4 episodes of 5 chapters dedicated to Fenris. That's clearly worth it. Wind Gambit, who's this for? It's only for the super Scythe enthusiasts, or if you just look at those airships and you can't resist. That's my review. Again, haven't touched the endgame modules, but even with that, the price tag, the module itself, for me, it's only when you're ready for all of it.
Yeah.
You agree?
No, yeah, definitely. I think I just the more little things you add to Scythe just makes it better and better. And even if Scythe, the Wind Gambit is not as impressive as the other expansions, it just adds to it. To Scythe in general, which makes Scythe itself just so much better.
Jair. You hear that sound, right?
I hear it.
Good. 'Cause that means it's tea time.
Tea time.
Oh, are we really going to make it that every time?
So we have something special here, huh?
Yeah, I
don't
grabbed
know what it
something from
is.
the back of the shelf here. I haven't used this one in a while. But tell me what you're feeling off this.
So I see some red in here, so I can cheat a little bit, but just tasting it, I can tell. It's either 2 things.
Oh?
This is either some sort of berry tea,
Okay.
like blueberry, or straight up hibiscus.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very
interesting.
interesting.
And I think, I'm sure there's some other stuff in there. Very, feels citrusy. Feels very, acidic, but at the same time, even refreshing. Just having it hot, it just makes me feel refreshed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're refining the flavors before we go into the review of it. Like, if you were to give this a name, what would you name this tea?
I would name this Jamaican Summer.
Jamaican Summer. Ooh. Well, a little off. Today you are looking at Mandarin Orange Spice. Yeah.
That was pretty off.
You said citrus. I was like, yes, go with that feeling. When you said 2, I was like, he's got orange down. And you were hibiscus. I was like, what?
Yeah,
but let's see.
There's some red stuff in it, so I was like, straight up hibiscus.
Well, let's read what the brewmaster writes here. Once enjoyed exclusively in the Orient, Mandarin oranges are now cultivated worldwide. This blend combines the tart and juicy flavor of Mandarin oranges with aromatic spices like cloves and coriander to create a bright, lively brew that transports tea drinkers to exotic Asian destinations with every sip, like Jamaica.
No, orange and coriander taste like hibiscus.
That's fair. That's fair. No, it's what I like about it is if you go to any hotel, some B-rated Comfort Inn or whatever, which when you're the B-rated, sorry, Econo Lodge, there we go, that's what I'm talking about. And you look at what they have offering, it's some sort of like instant coffee from the 50s or orange spice. That's the like continental, Earl Grey, and orange spice are the 3 they always whip out. And I always thought they'd be kind of garbage again if I was to jump back in. I've been hurt many times.
I kind of stay away from the Econo Lodge concessions. So
if you're at an Econo Lodge, sometimes it means your choices are not always there.
I just don't eat. I just stay in
sometimes
bed.
You can't choose if you eat or not. No, it's fair. And so Orange Spice kind of had a bad name for me in Tea World. And I tried this out, and I was like, ooh, very refreshing. And it really brought the love for orange back to me. Now we have our wonderful scale. From top to bottom, I believe it's Sweet Harvest Pumpkin at top.
Yeah.
Kind of tied in the middle is a Jam and Lemon and Bengal Spice.
Delicious.
And below that, still decent, but Roast Aroma. Where do you want to put Mandarin Orange Spice?
So I wouldn't put it up with the ginger lemon one. Or Bengal spice. Bengal spice. I would put it below it, but it's pretty higher than Roast Aroma.
Okay,
it's up there. It's good. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it how does it last from hot, medium to low?
Oh, I actually, if we're reviewing it in different states of temperature,
because you've done that with other ones.
Yeah, no. I actually like this one a lot when it's lukewarm. That acidicness, I guess citrusness from the orange, I don't know, I really like it when it's a little bit colder. I don't know, I would love this as an iced tea.
Dude, that's a great idea.
Yes, we need to make this into an iced tea. It would be
fantastic. We didn't use all the tea bags, so that's very likely we will. Cool.
The iced tea one, heck yeah.
Iced tea, okay, fantastic. Ooh. If we make it all the way to summer.
Some iced tea, just laying back and all the way to summer, listen to some Janelle Monáe.
Ooh, in the sun.
Yes.
And somehow there's a microphone out there with us. We're recording episode 58, and we're like, ooh, that's nice. We're going to remember this and then record it in episode 58 outside.
All right.
You know what's even better than tea?
Board games. Board games, yeah. Can't drink them, but... No. Right.
But next up, we talked about it earlier.
We did.
A big boy game.
Ooh.
A thick as a brick called Dungeon Petz. Now, Jair, I was ready to talk about this, but go ahead. I want to hear from your words here. Tell us how Dungeon Petz works.
Worker placement.
Ooh.
So you are placing your workers.
What are those workers?
And you place them. Now, so these workers are imps. And, I don't know the lore of the whole situation.
Give you a little bit here. There's another game called Dungeon Lords.
Yes.
You were a dungeon lord moving imps around.
Yes.
And at the end of the game, I guess the lords blew up or something. They all have to start over. And you left and you opened
a pet shop. And you want to have the best pet shop in the dungeon lands.
In Dungeon Land.
And, that's a great idea. And, with all great ideas, everyone wants to follow suit. And everyone else wants to open up the best pet shop around. So this is what Dungeon Petz is all about. You are building the best pet shop out of all the other pet shops. So you're placing your workers to get your resources, to get your pets, the pets that you're gonna be upgrading and evolving to make them as good as possible for you to sell them. And with that, the way you gather points is by making them the best kind of pet out there. You make them feel good. You play with them. You clean their cages. You give them food, and you just.
And then you eventually sell them.
And you eventually sell them. Right. Now, Dungeon Petz.
Okay, I'll take a...
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. I like to hear, because you took this on... we played Scythe a little bit when you did finally play it for the first time. We played a 2-player game. We played a third. I have yet to play 4-player. And it's a whole... When I say it's a whole different game... there's kind of an AI that just restricts movement in a 2 to 3 player, and a 4-player, there's just no need for that since the board will be flooded with everybody. But you have these imps that are part of your family, and you send them out into town to gather pets, to gather food, to gather artifacts, and all sorts of things you can come up with. The workers go out on a bidding system. You have this weird, I've been trying to think of how to describe it, but you have this player board where you keep all your stuff. And connected to it is kind of a science project display that's connected to it, but you lean it up during that point where you distribute your workers. You don't just choose 1, 1, 1, 1. You group them up into little factions, because the first turn is decided by who decided to bid the most of your imps, your workers, in a group. Let's say we all drop our little science displays, and I have 4 workers. Jair has 5 workers in his first spot. And Evan, who played with us, he has 3 workers, but he has like 4 sets of 3 workers. Jair has the highest number at 5, so he gets the first placement.
To start out.
Then it goes down to the 4, and I had a 4. And the rest of ours are maybe 2s and 1s. Well, Evan has 3s, and so he gets, for all the groups of 3s he has, he gets to go, since it's just whoever's the highest number. There was one round, Evan made 3 groups of 6, and none of us went as high as 6.
Crazy.
So he just got to put 3 things on the board first before any of us. It was it's a really good worker placement in that the board is super claustrophobic.
It is.
There's
so many things.
There's so many things, and yet you can't do. You'll never do all the things you want to do.
That's true.
You maybe get one thing you want, and the rest is like little silver medals. You want to get as many silver medals as you can. You gather pets. You have to get cages for them, and that's the real exciting part of the game. Because after everybody's put their imps out into town, you have to meet their needs. And they're these fantastic design pieces. I had to put them all together. It was a blast doing so. It's a circle on the bottom with kind of a small egg shape on top. This is really hard to describe until you look it up. But what this results in is basically a giant egg shape. And when you're sifting through the pile of them, they're just eggs. Then you put them into town, you flip them over, and you find out, ooh, this is the
little creature.
This is the creature we're working
little
with.
Pet.
And
creature.
The circle is a dial at the bottom of the game, and you spin it. You will slowly increase it as it gets bigger. But as it gets bigger, there are more cards that show up on the dial, and you have to give it each one of those cards. And these cards are different colors, but the colors just kind of give you the odds. There's magic and anger, because these are magical creatures. There's poop. Your creatures poop. You were being polite about it earlier, but they just poop everywhere. They eat and they play and they do all these things. And you're likely with yellow to get play, but it might be poop. You don't know. The odds are
the
favored.
Colors themselves are kind of like a base for like a majority. Like, for example, yellow ones are going to be more playful things.
Most likely to be.
Most likely. But you could still get something else.
You might get anger, where red is very angry. Yeah. But, red could also be poop. And that's this fantastic balance, because you will draw a card for each one of those. You have one of every color in your hand, and you have to decide with what you have in your hand, what can I give this creature?
Right.
And I described it a while back, but it's spinning plates. You have to spin all these plates.
Yeah,
and the more plates, and the bigger the plate gets, It is so
much more difficult.
Oh, it's so
and
stressful,
frustrating, and it's fun though. It's fun though because here's the thing. You're playing this game, and you were mentioning how I like Euros, although I don't think I've gotten to play that many Euros. But my game style is, if I'm playing this game, I probably know that I'm not gonna win necessarily, but even then, even without winning, if I was at least able to hold onto all those plates and keep it together and not collapsing into a terrible lack of points, at least I feel good about myself. I'm sure some people
you took third, but it wasn't that far off.
No.
You were I think 8 points away.
Yeah.
And both Evan and I think I won by 1 point over.
Right.
Again. Take that, Evan. 2 games, 1 night, by 1 point each. Yeah. He doesn't listen, but it's fine. But we were 58.
Right.
And you were 49 or something. It was really close.
And it's those self goals. Even if you don't win, you still feel I sold my pets. They're out there. I did my job.
Well, the game, because I always describe your first time playing through a difficult game is you bleed through it.
Right.
Campy Creatures didn't need any blood. Dungeon Boyz needed a blood transfusion. Your first game you played, you didn't sell a single pet.
Yeah, that was rough, huh?
You had a baby golem covered in poop and despair. Literally covered in poop and despair. And finally, in the last round, you just let him go.
Yeah, this turn, I didn't have any. I was very clean. I was the cleanliest pet shop
You
out
never
there.
had poop. I don't know how you managed to not
And
have
I
poop.
believe it's just from playing other games, just playing Scythe, playing Montana, which is another...
we loved that.
Yeah, I mean... As many times as we can shout it out, Montana, which is another worker placement game. Working all of these games have made me so much better at playing Dungeon Petz. Just being a person that is just coming into this world. What now? I'm a little. I would say if you would put it in a level of, I don't know. I feel like I'm not out there yet. I still feel that game, sure.
If it was a leveling up system, you were by no means some sort of knight, but you were no one's squire. You have leveled up very quickly because you don't need any bridge games. You don't need warm up games.
Right.
You're ready to jump in. You're not going to play Splendor because you need to get cozy with the games.
Right.
You're going to play Splendor because you want to play Splendor.
But that has helped a lot to get to Dungeon Petz, which, like you said, it's a meaty one. It's a big one. It's heavy.
It's one of the heaviest games I own.
I like it, and I know even Dungeon Petz itself is going to help me figure out other kinds of games. With the betting system, which is something else I like, this whole game, it's pretty meaty, but it's because there's so many faces to it. First off, you're betting to get your guy out there first. Once you do that, you're putting your guys out, so you have to know where you want to put them. Then you're getting all the resources from the cards, what your pets need.
All your pets needs, the cards,
and then setting them out there.
I want to pause a bit there because that's not, I just want to talk about how fun that was playing those cards.
Right.
Because we played with the right people. Dungeon Petz, you can play with dull people. You can just play the cards, poop, anger, magic. I did it. Cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But the best way to play Dungeon Petz with good people is tell the story of your cards. Well, little Wormy here, he was really angry. So angry, he didn't have any food and he still pooped everywhere. Which would turn out to be magical poop. And that gave him a mutation. What? And it's just and it didn't need that.
It's so quirky.
Quirky.
Yeah, but it's that natural quirk of if the people are up to it, they're gonna get it. And even if there's someone in the group that is just playing it very basic, anger, food. If someone else does it, he's not gonna feel uncomfortable. That person's not gonna feel you're being silly because the game itself is very silly.
It's so silly. It's one of the best manuals.
Oh
it's
my
so
God,
goofy.
yes,
They have every creature has a story behind them. My favorite is Lifford. He is a giant spiked lizard with a bone in his mouth. And Lifford belief that everything is better with something in your mouth. And that's how it's written in the book. And that's just magical and wonderful.
Fantastic.
And we read them out every time, and it never felt forced.
No.
And that usually text in the books feels so forced to me. I don't usually care for it. And so the game has character written into it, which is usually a bad thing, but it also emits that same character, and it's just jolly good fun. Jolly is the word I would use.
Jolly.
Because the aesthetic... Well, actually, we'll come back. You keep describing. So we put out our needs. We have laughed at each other as we've done these.
And then after that, once you have your needs out there, you see if you can modify, like if you have the food to feed your creature and your card said that he needs food, you get that food out there. Or if you need an imp to play with the creature and you didn't use them for the bedding, if you didn't use that imp for the bedding, then you can put him over to help him out. And also the cages has some perks that, maybe help them not get mutations from magic or not get angry.
There's so many factors
that you get. And it's such a seamless integration of all these phases of bedding, putting your imp in the right spot so you can get the most out of your pet, and then figuring out how all of that helps you get to the seller. And the sellers want specific things. Maybe some sellers want your pet to be...
Well, first there's the exhibitions.
Oh yeah, there's the exhibitions.
So every round outside of the first is an exhibition, which is a pet show. You watch Best in Show, and that's what this is whatever cards you put in front of your character, your creatures, they go on display, they go on show, and basically everyone in town came down to the county fair to see you guys perform, and they want the one that's most playful.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, my guy had 3 playful cards this turn and didn't get too sad off of it. I have this many points off it. Well, mine was a little playful, but he's not sad at all. And you have this race, this scoring race with it, and that's like a small engine to generate reputation.
Right.
The game is not about having gold, it's about having reputation.
Right.
And that's a small way you do it. But then there's 6 rounds and the final scoring, but starting with the 3rd round,
you start selling your pets.
Yeah.
And you have these buyers that want specific things. Like I was saying, some buyers want your pet to be a dirty pet and be very poopy and have a lot of poop.
There's the 2 guys who love poop.
But a lot of them don't like despair, because if none
of them do.
If the cards ask you for food and you don't have food, you didn't get food with your imps out, that pet is going to get despair. It's going to be a very unhappy pet.
Whenever you can't meet the needs, you get these little tokens.
We're going to get called Imp PETA on these pets because they are suffering, and we don't want them to do that. Because the buyers are not going to buy them. They're not going to get the most points out of them. But
there's stuff that positively influence your... Everybody has a chance. When a seller comes to town, they get a chance to buy from every player.
Right.
You choose one of your pets, and you've already figured out which one by this point. Mm-hmm. And you say, here he is. The seller wants good things, and he hates bad things. And that's all depending on what he wants.
Right.
And you have to have a positive score off of those. I had more good things than bad things. And then you can sell them for that reputation.
Yeah.
Ooh. And there's just times it lines up perfectly.
Right.
Ooh.
Yes.
I had a Stego Bully, I think it was called. It's this like Stegosaurus meets a bull. And I lined him up just right. I knew the next seller was gonna, because it shows you what the next week
so
brings.
You can build them up towards
and
that.
So I had an angry boy. I put him in an angry cage where he could just run around and stomp. And then when that seller came to town, I was like, "Here you go on a nice hot plate, ready for you." It was excellent. There was one really good sale you had, if I remember right.
Well, mostly exhibitions. I mean,
yeah,
I had a good stuff,
you were
but
exhibition master.
I was doing the exhibitions really well, getting those points from there. Which, I mean, it wasn't like a lot of points, but it was still, I was getting the most out of it with what I was able to get. But yeah, how do you feel? I mean, this is a game that, when you thought it, like when you were teaching it, kind of took me a minute, like first time. But now that I've played it twice, now that I've played it after playing other games, this is I can definitely understand why it's a meaty game. Maybe it's not approachable by a lot of people.
This is not if you are not a gamer, if you are not a board gamer,
it's gonna take a minute.
I would not throw this to you right away. Montana is a game I'd whip out.
Right.
Well, let's learn that. After a couple games of Montana and maybe another type of game of some sort, I will go ahead and say, all right, if you want, we're to sit down. We're to take a couple hours because the game was long.
Yeah, it was.
And we're going to sit down and play this.
Right.
What's funny to me is when I first got it, it was so aesthetically displeasing to me. The cover, you didn't see the cover till the end of the game.
Oh, wow.
And the first thing your eye draws to is what looks like, if you didn't know any better, it looks like a giant, bald, naked man cuddling and kissing a dragon. It's so uncomfortable and weird, and it's ugly. However, when you open up the game and you set it out, it's this town of imps, and they're messing with these deranged animals. There's 4-winged penguins, and I think it's called a dunguin or something. And there's all these goofy things, and you just realize how quirky.
Yep.
And I didn't mention before, but this comes from Czech Games Edition. It's made by Vlada Shivadl, who made Pictomania, which was our very first double star. Well, it was unofficial at the time, but that was totally our first double star.
Yeah, definitely.
And we love Vlada, I'd say, overall. I don't think he's made anything that we distaste. But but with the pets, he just created this experience. You know, I like the worker placement. I like trying to figure out how I can set up my perfect cell or my perfect exhibition. Now that I've played through it, I'm curious if I can set up an exhibition game like you did, and if I can win off that rather than sales. And that way I can focus less on trying to get bids out, but maybe having 4 creatures that are just constantly giving me good stuff. What this feels like to me is Czechoslovakian Pokemon or Czechoslovakian Tamagotchi.
That's awesome.
And you have remember Tamagotchis because they pooped.
Yeah.
I remember I went to a friend's house and she had nano pets. It was the same thing, but they were so involved in them that their parents, her mom would wake up early in the morning to make sure there were, I think, 2 in the house, and they make sure they all got fed. And I was just like, you guys are hardcore. For 6 rounds, I was hardcore. I had to let one of mine mutated into another dimension. That's the thing that can happen in this game. They can get covered in poop and despair, and they can also mutate into another dimension. And I realized I can't save you, little dude. You're going away. Goodbye. And I made sure everyone else had a happy life. They were very happy after that one. And it was so, you're so involved in these little characters that have no personality in a little paragraph in the book, and just the needs they require out of you.
Yeah.
As far as a game getting you to care about, pets, I think it's just perfectly named in that. It's Dungeon. The fact that they're pets, it does exactly what it is. It didn't need to have those. It was a fantastic worker placement, but that's what really solidified it for me. How do you feel about Dungeon Petz?
Well, like I said, first impression coming out of it, like I said, it takes a minute to gather all of what's going on, but once you do, it's just such a fantastic game, such a fun game. And we did play it just a 2-player game first time. This time we played it with Evan. There's more people on board. There's more things going on, more chaos,
more people to compete against. The exhibition is more dynamic.
Yes. So and this is something kind of like a recurring theme, is that there's a lot of games that maybe I don't feel as good about, but maybe it's just because I haven't been playing with the right amount of people. But
I feel like I would be interested to play Dungeon Petz with you again at 2-player now that you're comfier with it too.
I'll probably even do better, but I do prefer it with more people around. So I feel good about it. This is a good game. This is a great game, and I love that so many other games have made me become better at it, and in turn have this one make me better at other games. So that's what I take from it.
2 big points I want to make in this game. We talked about I think it has high replayability, and that's magical because we had talked about whether or not randomized setup is a crutch.
Oh yeah. Huh.
There's no randomized setup. There's distributing of pets and cages, but all the worker placement spots are the same every time you play. The first setup for the food market is the same every game.
Right.
There's randomized stuff to it, as most games do, but it's not a randomized setup. It's very solid, and yet it's not a puzzle I can quickly figure out because the pets are going to be so different.
Right.
And there's all these different ways the game is going to go, and who are you playing with is going to so influence the game. And that's magical. I don't mind a randomized setup. And I'm going to tell this little story, which will lead me into my thing here. It's when we play with Evan, Evan's fun. He laughs. He has a good time. But I wouldn't say he typically explodes. Now, granted, it's because we usually play Scythe, which is not explosive. You know, ooh, you went and won that fight. We didn't expect you to win. Okay, cool. Or they took this thing from you. Neat. He's usually a very thoughtful player. Okay, yeah, neat. Okay, let's move on. Oh, okay, neat. Let's move on. When I would the second or third time he drew cards for his pets, and he looked at them because all of us are going, oh no, no, what do I do? And we were all doing that, and Evan's been pretty good. He gets the second like, oh no, and he starts making all those noises.
Yes,
and quiet, fun Evan all of a sudden explodes, and I was like, that was magical.
That's awesome.
And I watched that and I was like, this is a moment I'm going to treasure in my board game little memory. And it's not that he can't be that way. I think I played Cause Encounters with him and watched him get that way. But it was just this game took that worker placement, you know, stiff, simple, because we like Montana, but it's very stiff. Okay, do your thing. You do your thing. Ooh, that was clever. Oh, nice. And it made this wacky laugh fest while still being a heavy game.
Yeah, this one throws you like off a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely throws you. I think the biggest issues with it is that it's just so demanding of you. This is not Montana. Well, you'll ease into it. Oh, no, you did not ease into your playthrough of it. Right. And when I played it, I even played it by myself. And I did not ease into it. All my animals were dying left and right. But if you can handle that, if you don't mind that, and you like having some big, thick game to look forward to, I can't recommend enough. It's getting Nick's Dungeon Boy star for sure. Big fan. So yeah. Oh, I'm so glad we got to play that finally. So much so, I already purchased the expansion for it at the last flea market, Dark Alleys.
Yeah, we need to get into that soon.
It adds a whole other part of the playing board where you can buy candy and processed food and take your pets to the psychiatrist. It also adds a lengthening to the game where the game goes like 7 or 8 rounds. I don't know if I want to play that. Wow, that game is perfectly paced as is, but I'm so excited to see where this game is going to take us. So Dungeon Petz. Now, see, that's made by Czech Games Edition by Vlada Shivadl.
Yes.
You know what else is made by Czech Games Edition and Vlada Shivadl?
Something called Codenames Duet.
Yes. Codenames Duet. Yes. I'm going to give this over to Jair here in a bit, but Codenames Duet, to give you a bit of structure to how it starts here, is a 2-player version of a party game called Codenames, where that can scale from like 4 to 50 billion people. But Codenames Duet ideally is meant for 2 players. I am very familiar with Codenames. I have bought it twice. I have the double XL version, which we will play. You have not played.
First time playing
any Codenames in general. So tell me about Codenames Duet.
So it comes with a little story. I feel like stress is not necessarily a thing that it's displeasing if it's done right. So I saw this movie. There's this movie called 5 Seconds to Heaven. It has Liam Neeson and another actor, I don't remember. And it's not a movie that's out there. I haven't seen it anywhere else other than like a festival. But this movie is about these 2 characters that are very much, they hate each other very, very much. But you don't see them interacting with each other the whole movie. And it's just the whole movie that them 2 getting really, really close to each other and not being able to interact with each other until like the last couple of minutes in the movie. And hence they get those 5 minutes of heaven of duking it out, and they hate each other so much, and you just see those 10 last minutes. But that movie is so stressful, but it's stressful good, because it's stressful that because like those last couple of minutes is those 5 seconds of heaven. It relieves all that stress in such a wonderful way, and that is what for me Codenames is. That you're trying to figure out all of these agents that you lay out in the board. You set them up with different code names, and it's a 5x5 grid, and it's different words: robot, bread.
And that's all the board is. It's just a 5x5 of 25 words.
Yeah. And now your job is to figure out which one of those names in the 5x5 grid is an agent and one of your agents. So you get a card.
A key card.
A key card with a layout of a same 5x5 layout. And some of the cards in that little key card are green, and those are your agents, and they're all laid out, and there's 9 of them. There's 9 green little cards, but there's also 3 black spots, and those are assassins. You don't want to guess those. You don't want your other person playing to guess those, and you don't want him to get on those spots, because otherwise the game ends and you lose. But here's the cool thing. That little key card has 2 sides. So the person right in front of you has his side with his own combination of green agents that he has to figure out, and all of my 5 that I have to figure out. Well, wait, actually that's vice versa.
So the idea is that there's 15 spies on the 25 board. You both have 9 spies on your board. There are 3 overlapping. Don't worry about the stuff too much.
Yeah.
Your goal is just to get them to guess all of yours, and their goal is to get you to guess all of theirs. And describe a basic turn.
Like how?
Yeah.
So like how it
when it's
actually
your turn.
works. So it actually works. You have to help the person in front of you guess which one of those in the 5x5 grid is an agent, but you can only do it by saying one word that is relevant to whatever words are out there. So for example, if you have robot and let's see, computer and car, and you say the word technology, tree, that means that technology is relevant to all of these 3 things, and there's 3 cards that are relevant to it. So if you say that, the other person might see robot, might see car, might see computer, and say like, oh, those things are, technology. They tie in together, and they, technology is a good word to put them all together. So I'm gonna guess robot, I'm gonna guess car and computer.
If only.
If only, because you have a 5x5 grid of randomized cards with different things. And you might have robot, car, and computer, but you might also have
chips.
Chips, computer, circuit board. No, that's
no. But if the idea, if I may,
yeah.
If I'm on the other side and he says that, and I see chips, there's a possibility. It's always best to vocalize as you play this game, so people can read your mind as you play. And I say, ooh, well, car, yeah, that's technology.
Yeah. Computer,
but he also likes computer chips. That could be one.
Right.
That's not what he meant
and
at all.
Maybe chips is not a good one. And if you have people guess that one, maybe it's an assassin, and you end the game and you lose. And it's a very unforgiving game.
Very unforgiving.
5 times.
We played 5 or 6 times.
And we only won.
We only won the last one.
The last one.
It was so... Codenames, a very short version, is that there are 2 spy masters, let's say Jair and I, and we have teams. And we have teams on this side of the board, right. And our key card only faces us. There's only one side, and there's blue and red spies. I'm trying to get all the blue spies, he's trying to get all the red spies. And we play that game of saying a word, how many cards is that word relevant to, and our team tries to guess while the other one heckles them. Neat, it's fun and competitive. But Duet is cooperative. We want both sides to guess correctly. And then while you're doing that, the big change in this game for me wasn't that it's cooperative, is that it's timed. You only get so many turns, and we have to complete this board in time, or we go into Sun and Death, where we guess, but as soon as we're wrong, assassin or just an empty space, it's done. As soon as you guess wrong, you're done. And it's so painstakingly satisfying as much as it is unforgiving.
Yep.
Let's see. As you're playing it, I mean, like you said, how does this feel? It feels stressful. We sit there and we're trying to play word games.
Yeah.
What can we do to accomplish as much as we can on the board? Right. Typically, the thing is, Codenames on its own, I'm not going to talk about Codenames too much, is that for a lot of people, they get cozy with it, and instead of trying, they can just say, word, 1. If it's, the ball is on the field, you can just say basket, 1, and they'll look and say, oh, basketball, that's what we're going for.
One.
Okay. And if they get ahead, then that can sometimes be a viable strategy. With a timer, we have to hustle. So our minimums are always 2s. We're always saying, car, 2, that sort of thing. And it builds this fantastic tension. When you're going up,
you threw in a 4.
Yeah.
And I guess all of them.
No, well, I've been waiting to talk about that. You didn't guess all of them.
Oh, really?
And you were thinking about it. So on the board, we were falling behind.
Yep.
Yeah. By the time you have 9 little people on the side of the board, and when all of them go away, the game ends. And after each person guesses, you take one. So there's only 9 rounds of guessing. We were a little behind on those. You start to count how many, you figure out how many you should have, and we need to play catch up. So I say Fortress 4. I want him to see Castle. I know he'll see Castle. It's close to him, so psychologically that's the first one he will see. I want him to see Cave. That's kind of a stretch. You're going to make stretches in this game.
About it, but
Cave, that's a kind of a fortress in itself. You chose Flag, which happened to be one of the other ones we were thinking of. We were not thinking about Flag, but you're like, man, flags go on top of castles, and castles are fortresses. You always put your flag on your fortress so everyone knows who it is. And that worked out. Luckily, it worked out. We were thinking of, and the best thing is, I talked to Carrie, we'll explain Carrie in a second, and I was like, how about this? And she's like, it could work. We were looking at craft for fortress, because we were thinking maybe you'll make the logic of Minecraft. And you said Minecraft out loud. They build fortresses. That's what they do. And I was like, yes, do it, because it's such a ridiculous thing. I threw that at you like there's no chance because that's dumb. And you were almost there, and then you skipped it. Yeah. But then my favorite one wasn't even that. It's that there's pillows.
Yes.
Pillows was a word. And Pillow Fortress. I could have gone with Pillow Fort. We were thinking about using Fort, but I was like, what if we use Fortress? Cave is not a fort, but it's a fortress. Right. And you took forever. I was like, Pillow's right there. It's really obvious. And you have to keep a straight face. You can't yell like, well, maybe. That's funny. We are both joking about this because that's a silly idea. You have to stay dead still and watch them. Yep. And when, it was a couple minutes gone by and you go, oh my God, yes, Pillow. I was like, oh my God, thank you. How were you going to miss that? I was going to be so mad at you. And you did it.
Really good.
But it was so great grinning through because you can't tell them, oh, you got all my 4 or you missed one. You can't tell them those things. So Kraft sat there until later for other reasons. But it was this amazing moment. And this game breeds amazing moments like that.
Yeah.
And they're all generated by you. All it is some tiles and some words. Yeah. And, that's my second favorite memory. The game is 2-player, but you can put people on teams pretty much. We're still cooperating. It's just we will discuss on what hint we should give the other team, and then when they give us a hint, we can discuss. We were playing this at work, and our boss shows up, and we're like, "Hey, Carrie, play with us." Okay, and she's on Jair's team, and she's looking at the board. And I feel this moment can sell people on this game. She's looking. She's like, I have an idea. Because of Nick's whiteness, I think he can get this. You talk amongst each other. You're like, yep, give it. If you think that's a good idea, go for it. And she goes, Garth, 2. So my mind goes to Garth from Wayne's World, and I'm looking at it. Second, Garth is second in command of the Wayne's World. Yeah. That makes a logical bridge there. And both of you are screaming in your heads, no, not the path we wanted. I am sitting there for a good 2 minutes Garth, yeah. It could be Garth Ennis, but that's a comic book artist. There's no way Carrie is going off on that. Garth. And I'm just sitting there. Paralyzed because nothing was.
We were giving up. We were saying we lost this first, and it was the first one. It was
the first move, and I was going to blow it so hard, and maybe choose an assassin spot because you always have to choose at least one.
Yep.
You can choose however many number they gave you plus 1 in case you want to make up for a mistake or something like that in another round. And I'm just about to give up. I don't know what. And then it clicks. She's talking about Garth Brooks. And the best Garth Brooks song is Thunder Rolls. And there's And there they are, Thunder and Roll.
But there's also
Rodeo. And I wasn't sure which ones. Turned out they were both good, but I was not sure. But I decided, let's stack them up. Let's stack them up and go Thunder, Roll, which is great because I'm terrible with lyrics. And only till like 2 months ago did I realize it's not Thunder Road, and it's Thunder Rolled. And had we played this game 2 months earlier, I would not have guessed Roll at all. Hilarious. And just last second, I was like,
yes,
oh my goodness, this is what Carrie's trying to do for me. And it worked out. And there was so much laughing and high-fiving.
Such an incredible move.
This game encourages, intimate moments. It encourages these inside jokes. It wants you to bridge this gap between you and the other person. In Codenames, you're bridging to your group. And it's always great because you bridge and the other team just starts getting on. And they all, they know. Right. And the other guy's looking at you like, oh yeah, that's obvious. And you watch your group just suffer and despair. And you start crying on the inside. Of course, you're keeping a straight face. This game, you want everybody involved to do really well. And I really just felt this passionate connection that Vlada is so good at. In Dungeon Petz, he wants you to care about these pets. I've never cared about little pets in a game before. In Pictomania, you are invested in everyone's drawings.
That's awesome.
You want to reward everyone, and you're all interacting all the time. And in Galaxy Trucker, you want everyone, sometimes yourself, to fail so you can all just laugh at how dumb you are. And that's great. But Codenames Duet is this wonderful connection. And I'm looking through my collection. I think it's my only game I can call a 2-player cooperative.
Wow.
That's really strange. And, actually, there's the Mind. But, yeah. But still, it's just this, let's work together. Let's not make this a 1v1. It's a 1-and-1. And that's my feeling on it. How do you feel off this?
I don't think I've ever played any game like this, but as soon as you set it up, I understood what was going on, like what we had to do, and I love the wordplay of it. I love it does take a minute to figure out, and I guess this is something that comes with that AP, the analytical analysis paralysis. But even then, like I'm saying, I like that stressful good. I like spending 10 minutes trying to figure out what is the best way to give you the right clue, and then finding it and saying like, oh, that's easy, let's do this. And you get it done, and then you guess them, and maybe you don't guess them, but it's still a great experience to go through, because you just go into the next turn, and it's like, all right, let's do.
Our biggest issue in the game is that we made it clear. It's 2-player.
Yep.
It's cooperative. It's quick. We do not need to spend too much time. Okay, understood. And then we all got really invested because we all wanted to win.
Yep.
But it still was silly because I was like, if you guess wrong, it's okay.
So it's a fine. Game. I think there's a game that we haven't talked here in the podcast, but we eventually will play again and talk about it. But I felt the same way I felt about Walkstar. Yes,
Walkstar is a real-time cooperative game. We've mentioned it a couple times, I think. We talk about Walkstar a lot. We need to sit down and have like a Tim Fowers night where we play a lot of his games.
Yeah. But we played it a couple of times. We lost so many times, but when we won, we won.
Yes. And it felt so bad because Carrie was taking a call when we won, so she didn't get to celebrate in a victory she very much was a part of. And she looked around like, oh. And I felt terrible. I just had to leave really quick.
Yep.
But it was so fantastic and unifying. One thing, first of all, clearly it's replayable. We played it, 5-6 times.
Oh my God.
And we're going to play it more.
Yes.
But it's also super teachable. It's Daddy is a party game, and party games have to be. And it's almost more so than some. When I think of wordplay games, I'm thinking of Scattergories and Taboo, and a lot of those that are so simple that they can sometimes shy away from the gamer world and more to the casual market. The market of wordplay party games is getting really saturated. To a light degree, I would put the Apples to Apples genre, which is Fun Employed, and Cards Against Humanity. And those are so saturated now that I wasn't very attracted to the wordplay community. I actually like a lot of those older games, Taboo and Scattergories, more than a lot of what's coming out. Codenames really shook that up. Just that, what word are you talking about? What are you trying to get me to think?
Yep.
I think there was one time I told you about where I was trying to get someone to say European and palm.
Right.
I had to get them to say those two words. And I went Hans too. And I was like, this is easy. Yeah. This will be great. And they gave me the dumbest look, like, what? I guess European, but what else? And I think they guessed an assassin. And I was just like, no. And I'm so dying. Sad. And it's this connection that I don't feel in party games of that magnitude. There's more intimate, like Campy Creatures, Resistance, where it's much more a game than it is an experience. And Codenames definitely feels more like an experience due to the fact that the real element of the game is the human element. But anyone can pick up Codenames, and really anyone who wants to. I would say anyone who wants to pick up. We had two other people. We had Carrie come in. Carrie doesn't feel that she's very good at games. She picked it up right away. Adrian, we didn't even explain the rules. We played little tidbits. And he's like, oh, I think I get this. And I do think he actually got it. And we will find out because I'm going to totally play with him. Yes. And he had a good time. He had to stay. He just stayed for a quick one, but he laughed and he joined in. I do feel almost anyone can play it. Yeah. Vlada, he either makes it super big or he keeps it really nice and simple. And I think as much as I've been having fun talking about it, there's one glaring issue with this game for me. You know what I'm going to say? It's huge.
No, I don't know. What is it?
This game is timed at 15 minutes.
Oh,
most of our games were almost double that solely because we had the analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
We got locked up and there'd be so much waiting time. And it felt bad because the idea, ideally, when one person's thinking up their word that they're going to give, you can spend you can spend that time like, okay, next turn I'm going to tell them, okay, let's plan that. Let's plan that out. Let's plan that out. But you would give so much time that I already knew what I was going to do. So when it came to my turn, I immediately went. You didn't have time to think about it because then it was your turn to guess. And so for you were very active on that, and I got to be stationed. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm saying you were going to play this with somebody, and that's going to happen to you. That made the game pretty rough, and I don't know if it's something you improve on.
I would think it's not even a game thing. I think it's like how well of like connecting things you are with words and like popular culture and how well you know people you're playing with. So if you're playing with family, you will be able to find more connections to figure out like, oh, this is. If you're playing with strangers, I do feel like it might get a little...
You say that, but we've played games together more than I played with anyone in a very long time.
It's true.
And we still locked up.
Because we... And also I do think it's because we wanted to put out the best points. Because we could have gone for easy stuff. But we wanted to...
But again, we could in Codenames. In Duet, we're timed. Yeah. And we don't have that luxury.
Right.
It's painful.
Yeah.
it's a good pain, but I do worry if people hate wait times.
Right.
This could really be a damper on their game. That being said, if you can embrace that Codenames lifestyle of screw it, let's try it, let's see where this goes. It's absolutely incredible, and it's definitely it definitely belongs in the CG collection. Like, I'm so glad I own it. I'm going to keep both Codenames and Codenames Duet with me. Because I do think this is... It has mass appeal and it doesn't. I feel like with Codenames, it's easy to stay safe until someone pushes you to not. This game, I'm curious if it's for everyone. I have a feeling it kind of is. I'm not quite sure where the demographic starts to slim down, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I do feel it is... If you've played games and you've played party games and you're like, man, what would a party game feel like with one other person? I've talked about that in a bad way, but or maybe a questionable way. But it is for me. It is absolutely for me, and I feel... Anyone who likes laughing and having good times, if you played Spyfall,
we did. We played Spyfall.
just wacky games where you laugh and you have to think and try to connect with other people's minds. I do think you can get through, as long as you understand, chances are your first game and probably a lot more games afterwards will be more than 15 minutes. You're going to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Again, 5-6 times playing, and it wasn't forced. We just immediately, without question, set up the board. Again, here we go. No question. And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's a campaign.
Oh.
Yeah. We're going to keep up.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's just this little extra. And it's just this little detail, because you can play the regular game just fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely okay. All the campaign is it changes the round rules. You have 9 tokens that represent your turns,
right.
And whenever you mess up, but you don't die from assassin, you leave them out on the board instead of take them for yourself. These are considered mistake tokens. When you take them for yourself, they're mission complete tokens. The game will mess with those. It'll give you, basically you start out in Prague, which is a 9-9. 9 rounds, open to 9 mistakes. But then, when you're done, you draw a line to another location you're going to go to. And it may say 10-4. And that means you get 10 turns, but you can only make 4 mistakes. Once you've made those 4 mistakes, if you make another one, you're out. Doesn't matter if you hit an assassin or not. And it just changes the difficulty by changing this one little factor. And so you can take this light double game and give it some meat, just some like real replayability that you could. I would imagine kind of like how Fenris is bringing everybody together. It can bring 2 people who want to get through this and write down. Now you can do it until you fail, which will be fast, or you can just keep hammering away at one location until you get it.
Until you get it, yeah.
I think we're talking about doing it ourselves. We're not going to keep you updated like we do with Fenris, poorly. But I think we'll keep track on our...
I believe in ourselves. I think we can pull it off.
I think
it won't be 8 weeks.
It won't. No. But we'll keep it up on like Instagram and Twitter. Follow us there. We'll take pictures as we make interesting. We'll tell you how many times it took to get through Berlin or Moscow. But yeah. Do you have issues with the game that are glaring to you in any way? Or?
I hadn't thought too much about the analysis paralysis issue and the time wise, because I welcome it, but I understand like if they are saying that it's gonna be a 15-minute game, I doubt it, highly doubt it for anybody else.
Because here's the question: you don't have this, but if you're playing with someone, and while you're thinking, they bring out their phone.
Oh no, that's.
And you don't like it when they do that, but they have all that time to do so. Because all they can do, outside of maybe think of what their next guess is going to be, is wait.
It's true.
But again, it's 1-1. It's 1-1.
Yeah.
And unlike Codenames where if you're not sure, someone else can step in, it's all you.
Yeah.
It's very personal. I've thought about it, and I'm going to give this my star as well.
I want this in my shelf. I wanted to play. I want to show this game to everyone else. I want to give this a gold star.
This is our first. So it's a double Dungeon Boy star Boogaloo. But it's also our first episode with 2 of those. Going to Campy Creatures and Codenames Duet. We really developed a stats of. We really do like that light medium feel. We're definitely going to be talking more about thicker games as we go through, but I don't mind that we have kind of a taste built for ourselves. The other thing is, you also haven't played Codenames yet.
I haven't played the...
And that's all you kept telling me. As soon as you learned the game, you're like, I just want to play real Codenames now.
Yeah.
You want to sit over there next to me with straight faces looking at our victims. And I'm excited to do that with you. We're going to have a huge time with that. Oh, man. So... We love Campy Creatures.
Campy Creatures.
Wind Gambit, it's nifty. It's nifty. It's interesting. And I beat Evan. And then we had Dungeon Petz, because I love Vlada. I love him.
I like how you mentioned, like, he makes these games, and these games just connect you, engage you to either the people you're playing with or the things you're playing with as well.
Yeah. What a good week of games.
Great games.
I'm so glad we crammed in Codenames Duet and Campy Creatures today, but we had such solid feelings off of it. I don't regret it in the slightest.
The last couple of weeks have been pretty rough, but these games have, been really, really good, and we've just been excited to talk about them.
Somehow a game, Codenames Duet, so stressful has been stress relieving on today. So we're going to close up our $10,000 iPads.
Yeah.
And take those last sips. Oof. I hope you guys enjoyed this. You know what? I thought of a question to ask our fans. First of all, we talked about 4 games today.
Yes.
If you play games, there's a chance you play one of them, and we want to hear your thoughts. Tell us what you think about these. We want to hear your feedback. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree?
Yeah.
But also, I've got a fan question I want to ask.
Ooh.
To all the fans, what is a game from your childhood you really loved, and why? Tell me about a game back then that's really special to you. You can mention Monopoly if you like. Tell us why you really loved it. Did it bring the family together? Was there that weird one for you? I'm going to come up with a different answer later. But, for instance, I had the original Jumanji. We played the crap out of it. And it was so great because I messed up memories of it. If you go and find our old copy, the little red receiver that you put the card under... is all torn up and taped over. Okay. You can tell someone tried to rip it up. In my mind, I was like, I did that because I was a kid who didn't know how to handle anything. I found out last year that I made up that memory. My dad did it because he thought it had to be torn off, and he taped it back on himself. And all these years, I just made it up in my head that happened. But I had played it so many times. Dude. I got incepted, and he snuck in there. He's like, "This was your doing. You broke Jumanji." And Robin Williams.
I had that game too.
Yeah. There's a new version it's the same game, but it's in wood. Let me tell you, it's an okay game. Yeah. It's fine, but I kind of just want it for the wood game. So there's an example of that. Don't throw a game. Tell us what made it special for you. I'll have another one for you next week. Jair will have one for you. Yeah. And we want to hear from you. We want to tell those stories. So go out there, play games, have fun, and drink tea.
Good tea.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.